IVM.
This week's episode of Edges and Sledges is brought to you by Seat Tires, and we wanted to tell you a little bit about their Secura Drive and their puncture-safe tires.
For those of you who drive, Seat Secura Drive is a tire with an added layer of safety, offers a much higher degree of control and grip even at high speeds.
And for those of you who ride, Seat's premium puncture-safe tires, as the name suggests, are less prone to flats and leaks. I mean, whoever has the time to deal with annoying flat tires, right?
And now onto your show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast powered by Seat Tires. I'm your host for this week, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ, my co-podcaster in London. And unfortunately, at the time of recording this, it is just past 1 a.m. in Singapore. So Varun is not with us this week, but we wanted to record after the completion of the second 2020 match between India and England. DJ, pretty depressing after the first one. Pretty exciting today, right? It's amazing how our moods just flow with the ebb and flow with the successes of Team India.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking that tomorrow's Monday, lots of people, when you hear this podcast, will be Monday, Tuesday, right? So lots of people go to work and our mood is probably disproportionately affected by the fortunes of the Indian cricket team. Of course, on Friday, we were all down. And on Sunday, after that crushing win, we're all back up and we're upbeat. Everything's fine with the world. So, looking forward to the week already.
Yeah, absolutely. So series is 1-1. All the naysayers who predicted 5-0 to England, you're already wrong. I know there's still some who predicted 4-1. But hey, just the quality of cricket India played was phenomenal in the second match. Of course, quite a contrast to the first match, right? So what we're going to cover today is a little bit about the first T20, the second, and then it feels like there's been a lot going on in the world of cricket again, right? Between Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka's playing West Indies, India's women are playing a series. The Legend series is going on where Sachin made 80 runs, I think, in one match. Sehwag is batting well. Feels crazy, but very, very exciting. So we're not going to get into all of those in details. As always, we will spend most of our time talking about the India-England series. So, DJ, let's start with the first match, right? I did a guest appearance on the cricket podcast, which is run by, three folks similar to us, but they're England fans. And we spent a long time talking about it. So I'm going to talk about it with you for a little bit. Going into that first match, right? Varun couldn't be here today, but he asked us to specifically hit one topic, which is Virat Kohli comes into a press conference, announces India's going to play a different brand of T20 cricket, right? You're going to see us be more aggressive, bigger hitting, different brand of cricket. And then he sends Shikhar Dhawan and KL Rahul out to open the batting. Walk me through selection, right? We'll talk the bowlers after, but let's talk about the selection of the batsmen because we made 2 changes going into the second game, which is never a great sign.
Yeah, and to put it into context, obviously the squad included the 2 Mumbai Indian players, Sky and Ishan Kishan, who had such a fantastic IPL 2020. Sky has obviously been doing that year after year. He's had, I think, 3 IPLs in a row where he scored over 500 runs, right? So I think there's a lot of excitement to see those players. And for those guys not to show up in the first game, I think that was firstly disappointing for a lot of fans because it was... Kohli had come out and said all of this stuff about we're going to play explosive cricket and we're going to go after the bowling. And there was a lot of big statements, but it was more of the same where you see Shikhar Dhawan come out and KL Rahul come out to bat. We lost the toss as well, which is another important factor. But I think in terms of selection, so if we take a step back from the series, right, India are trying to get the combination right for the World T20s. And for that, they've got a pool of players that they're trying to test. They're trying to figure out their combinations, figure out the players that are in form, figure out the players that are going to deliver a World T20 win. And to that end, I actually didn't mind the first game with Shikhar Dhawan playing in it because he's had a good IPL, he's a good limited overs player, and he was in the India T20 plans before the 2020 World Cup. The 2020 T20 World Cup was postponed.
2020, you just wanted to say 2020. But
2020 World Cup was postponed. But it was disappointing to not to see the fresh faces come in. But I understand the thinking behind it almost. And I think India are using these 5 games to test all the players around the players that are certainties, players like Rohit and Kohli. And I'm sure we'll come to it, but Rohit was actually rested in the first 2 games, right? And Kohli played those 2 games. And I can't see Kohli playing the entire series when Rohit comes back. I think he said Rohit will be rested for the first half of the series. So I think India are using this as an opportunity to work out the guys that can deliver that win in the T20 game, as opposed to England, who are using this as an opportunity to get match practice and play their best 11 in India. So I think that's the larger context. I mean, of course, neither Shikhar nor Rahul got any runs, which didn't help either of their cases. So, yeah, that's why the discussion obviously started around selection and not seeing Sky or Ishan Kishan in the 11 in the first game.
So before we get further into the match, let's talk a little about overall strategy then, right? Is the reason for the difference, according to you, that England's 11 is pretty much baked? Maybe they have one, let's be honest, they have one spot up for grabs, and that's the Mark Wood / Tom Curran spot maybe. But if 10 of their 11 players are baked, does India see strategically the value of saying, hey, we're okay to lose a series at home as part of T20 prep, or is the value of winning bilateral series still so high?
So 100% India is okay to lose this series if it helps them get the combination right for the World T20. I'm firmly of the view that whether you lose it 4-1 or 3-2, it makes no difference in the larger picture. I mean, it's not like the World Test Championship that is leading to something. You've got to perform at the World T20, and for that you have to have a pool of players where you know what your best 11 is. Now with the England team, they're so far advanced in their planning and they're so far focused on the white ball game that they've got all their best players here for the white ball leg of the tour, to the detriment, some would argue, to the test quality of their test team. And Joe Root, the team Joe Root was leading for those test series. Josh Butler's back, Ben Stokes is here, Jason Roy is here, Johnny Bairstow here. It's power pack, man. That's a power pack lineup. Probably, as you said, one spot needs to be fixed, but everyone else is there. Jofra Archer's firing on all cylinders. Whereas India is still feeling their way around their combination, trying to work out their best players. And I think India feel that they've got a little bit longer than England because remember, not all the England players are playing the IPL. Some of them are. Tom Curran is playing for Delhi, for example. So maybe he'll make a claim for playing in these conditions. But England really see this as we have to get this right. We want our best team to play because we want them to have the best possibility of using these conditions. And if they aren't playing, someone like Moeen, who's going to be playing for CSK, he should be getting a game for CSK. Tom Curran should get a few games for the Delhi Capitals and be practicing in the net. So I think England are seeing this very much as this is our best 11, whereas India are saying, let us try a few things out. We don't mind losing in the long run, to answer your question. Yeah, if it leads to success in the long run.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think that's just a different approach from both sides, which is we'll see how it manifests through this series. But I mean, side note, I don't see Tom Curran playing that much cricket if Delhi's got a full-strength squad. So he'll probably make it if Rabada and Nokia don't have calendar availability. But that's a story for another day. Right. So let's quickly talk about the bowler selection. Again, not much to discuss with England's selection, honestly. The 10 of their 11 are baked. Mark Wood played the third seamer spot, did phenomenally. Again, we had a different approach to the match versus England, right? England went with the four seamers, being Archer, Jordan, Wood, and then, of course, Sam Curran, with Ben Stokes as your fifth seam bowling option, and Rashid as the only one spinner. Whereas India ended up picking three spinners, right? We had Sundar, Akshar, and Chahal. And then for your two seamers, A, Bhuvneshwar Kumar was back, which made me very, very happy to see. And B, they went with Shardul Thakur, and Hardik Pandya rounded out that extra bowling option. So was that the right selection for you in the first game?
So for me, and I think we put out some great Twitter polls and we got lots of great responses on this. I think, in hindsight, obviously we got the selection wrong, having lost the game and England actually having done so well. But you must give credit to England to execute those plans as well. They had those bowlers that hit the deck. Rashid came in first up, took Kohli's wicket. So they executed their plans very well. I think we could have played one less spinner and we could have played one more quick. And I don't think there is a world in which both Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar play in this team. I think we're still trying out, but Kohli wanted to see, right? Again, this goes back to the trials pretty much that we're doing at the international level for the World T20. Because I think Washi makes this team as a first pick. I think Shardul probably makes this as a backup seamer along with Hardik to complete a quota of 4. But then you've got to have two frontline spinners, one of which is Washi, the other one being Chahal, who is a certainty. And then you have Bhuvaneshwar, followed by either Chahar or a Saini. Or if Bumrah is fit, of course, Bumrah walks into the team. I think we went with one spinner too many. It was one all-rounder too many. It was kind of a half-baked lineup almost. And I think England executed their plans brilliantly and proved to us that the selection wasn't right. But again, focusing on the selection, I think we're looking for performances rather than team combination, which I think we can talk about in the second game as well, because we replaced an Akshar Patel with a pure batsman, which, I mean, if you're looking to win the game rather than test the players, that doesn't make any cricketing sense.
Yeah, interesting. And a lot we can double click on there. But let's talk a little bit about then the game itself, right? Dhawan and Rahul walk out. We're 3 for 2. Kohli gets out in the third over to Adil Rashid. Dhawan gets out shortly after, 20 for 3. A little bit of a mini recovery, if you would call it that. Pant made 20 plus runs. Shreyas Iyer played magnificently. By the way, Shreyas Iyer probably got the most hate for being selected because people wanted Sky and Ishan in, and Iyer would have been the one who left out. And then he stamped his claim on his spot, right? Came into bat at 5, made 67 runs. But obviously 124 was just not enough, right? So to your point, England's bowlers did really well. Mark Wood bowled excellent. Jofra Archer picked up 3 for 23. I mean, just an all-round good performance from the England bowling attack, right?
Absolutely superb. And that spell from Jofra up front, you could see he was hurrying Kohli as well. And Kohli's a world-class player, and him getting hit on the gloves and then stepping away and trying to hit Jofra around square leg. And then all that pressure actually led him to playing that weird shot of Adil Rashid. I mean, there was that chat, of course. They put some pressure on themselves saying we're going to be explosive and we're going to go from ball one and hit sixes. But that pressure from the bowlers as well was extremely hard for the Indian batsmen to cope with. And they were kind of playing outside their comfort zone as well. I think you spoke to the cricket podcast who said there were 3 Kohlis in the top 4, right? With Rishabh Pant being the number 4, and Kohli was the best of the Kohlis. Now, I think the challenge from Kohli to his batsman was step outside your comfort zone. Try and accelerate from ball 1. See how that goes for you. It didn't work in this game. Combination of these batsmen having to play outside their comfort zone with the English bowlers bowling extremely well and pacey, man. Like Mark Wood coming in 150, 149, 147. Jofra Archer constantly at your throat and neck. It's not easy. I mean, even Rishabh Pant, the incredible shot that he pulled out that was magical. It was, I don't know what to say anymore about the shot, the reverse sweeping Jofra Archer for 6. But it was a product of not being able to score runs in a conventional manner, right? So just a combination of those two factors.
Yeah, it's interesting. We thought about and talked a little bit about giving Rishabh Pant another Siat Tire Award of this week, but we're not going to.
The Lifetime Achievement Award.
I think he should just get the Siat Edison Sledges Lifetime Achievement Award. Absolutely. But
the Puncture Resistant Award, right? The Puncture Resistant Award.
Puncture. It's a little bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I mean, look, 125 was just never going to be enough, right? And the discussion we had, that I had when I guested it on the cricket podcast, was just, I think the batting order, we got the batting lineup wrong, right? I don't think you can open a T20 with Dhawan, Rahul, have Kohli 1 down, and then Iyer play 2 or 3 down. It's 4 guys who are all arguably anchors. And B, we maybe have a little bit of recency bias across the wrong formats. And DJ, you and I have talked about this a lot on the show, but bringing in Akshar Patel for his phenomenal test series, right? We brought Pant back after his test series too. It worked better in this case, but he did come back because of a great test series. Does India just struggle from that recency bias across the wrong format? But let's keep going. Let's talk about the England chase, right? England just seems like a different T20 side, right? Jason Roy, Joss Butler, Bairstow, Malan. They're all huge guys, right? They're all built. They're muscular. I was, messaging with my friend Liz, who's a new fan of cricket, living here in the US, and that's what her observation was. Like, these guys are all just beefcakes. They're one after the other. They just keep coming around, muscling the ball to the fence. And that's what we saw Jason Roy do in the first match too. He made 49. Sundar got the better of him before he got 50. But this is just England, right? This is just England limited overs cricket now, right, TJ?
Yeah, and they've been playing like this for the last 6 years. And Jason Roy, man, he's one of those underrated players. When you think of England cricket, right, you think of Joss Butler, you think of Johnny Best, you think of Owen Morgan, you think of Ben Stokes, these guys. But remember the World Cup 2019? The guy who got them off to that rollicking start was, along with Johnny Best, Jason Roy. I mean, he obviously had that glove that went to Dhoni, which we didn't DRS, which is a different matter altogether. But, I mean, he was fearless first. I think even today, first ball he hit for 6, right, of Washington Sundar. So he's got that X factor. He's not the prettiest batsman to watch, but he's mighty effective and he hits it hard. I mean,
When you said prettiest, I thought you were going to say he's not the prettiest looking guy in the field. And if Varun was here, he'd be talking about Chris Wokes again. But
yeah,
anyway,
Chris Wokes,
that's
Pat
a throwback.
Cummins.
Throwback for those of you guys who've been listening to us for, I think, a couple of years, because it's been a while since we had.
I think
that chat.
Ishan Kishan
Anyway,
may
keep
be the new favorite. Really good batsman, smashes it all the time, doesn't take his foot off the accelerator. Really quite an impressive player. Jason Roy, not the prettiest as I said, but great for England.
Yeah, absolutely. So, honestly, not a lot else to say, right? 125 to chase. They only lost 2 wickets. I thought our bowlers did okay in some cases. Chahal, for example, looked pretty good, but still went for a lot of runs. Hardik Pandya was nice to see back in action with a new bowling action. But let's talk about one particular incident. We'll talk about Pandya when we get to the second game. Johnny Bairstow's batting, Washington Sundar is bowling. Actually, Bairstow was on the non-strikers end, right? Walk me through that and why, in particular, we're highlighting that incident for this week.
Yeah, so that interesting incident that took place, right? Like, I think the striker, was it Malan, who kind of leading edged it back to the bowler. So it was a catch that went to the bowler. But Johnny Bairstow at the non-striker's end was in the way of Washington Sundar catching it. And there was a little moment where it felt like things were about to kick off. And I mean, Washington Sundar seems like a pretty cool and calm character. I mean, he seems like one of those good boys who are not going to get into trouble at school, get good marks, go home, they like listen to their parents, listen to their dad, like make sure they do all their homework on time. But Washington Sundar had a little bit of a go at Johnny Bairstow. And so for this week's Seat gripping moment of the week, I think we're going to give the joint award to Johnny Bairstow and Washington Sundar, because they kind of squared off. Saw Virat Kohli kind of smiling, and maybe the stage of the game was such that Kohli didn't want to get more involved because they knew that they were going to lose. But I can see a closer game, Kohli coming up with a completely different attitude to that. Also, remember, this is the week there was the obstructing the field dismissal where Kieran Pollard appealed against the Sri Lankan opening batsman, who looked like maybe he accidentally stepped on the ball, but the third umpire gave it out as intentionally obstructing the field. So there was a moment, the Seat gripping moment of the week, I think for me, was when I thought they were going to appeal for obstructing the field against Johnny Bairstow, and that would have really set this series alight. Fortunately, better sense prevailed. Kohli's calm head, which is not often seen, to be honest, prevailed. And yeah, we didn't have a flare up, but Washington Sundar looked pretty fired up. So it was good to see that. And so a joint award to Johnny Bairstow and Washington Sundar for the Seat gripping moment of the week.
Yeah, really well said. It was definitely entertaining, and it's these little battles that happen on the field that make the series so much more exciting, right? Because now every time Sundar's bowling to Bairstow, there's that little bit of added tension. So it's what we love. That was the end of the first match. DJ, I want to quickly ask you one thing before we take a break. Anytime India loses, people want somebody's head on a stake, right? Let's be honest. We're all harsh as India fans. They're looking for a scapegoat. And by the way, Kohli made a duck, but then none of the top order did well. Immediately the conversation started. Kohli's out of form, and yada yada. B, should he be captain still? Now, you can argue he does tend to start series slowly. He does, not as a batsman, but he does tend to get selections wrong in the first game of a series and undo it or reverse it and get them right for the second, third game. But how do we get out of this crazy cycle where one loss and the whole country's, or not the whole country, but a lot of people are suddenly asking for Kohli to be removed as captain, etc.?
I don't think you can. I don't think you ever will be able to. I don't think... The good thing is that Kohli doesn't care. Neither does Shastri, nor does the BCCI obviously listen to what goes on Twitter or Facebook or whatever else, which is fine. And I just find it amusing that every time we lose that, it's like Rohit should be T20 captain. He's not even in the team. Kohli's kept him out. Obviously, none of that's happening. Rohit is the vice captain of the team. He's as invested in making sure that we win. And that's been this decision has been taken by consent. And if you're telling me that Rohit Sharma said, I want to play, and Kohli's told him, no, you will not play, I will not believe you, because this is utter nonsense. That said, you were asked the question, I think, recently, should Kohli be sacked from T20 captaincy? I think the answer to that is no. Although I do think there is a case for Kohli to voluntarily give up that captaincy if he feels like the workload is too high. He's playing 3 formats of the game. You can see Kohli on the field. He lives every moment, man. Like, you go to watch Kohli in the ground, right? We went last year, 2019, to watch him at the World the World Cup, and I've watched him in test matches before, just following him standing at slip every ball. It's just exhausting. And it must be exhausting to be him because he's jumping up, he's talking to his bowlers, he's shining the ball. He leaves everything on the field. So I almost think, and it's not a reflection as Kohli as a T20 captain or his inability to win a World Cup or a IPL for his franchise. I just think to prolong Kohli's longevity as a batsman and as a test captain and an ODI player, I think it's worth handing over the reins to Rohit. And this is not a reflection on Kohli's captaincy or Rohit's captaincy. Rohit has won the IPL multiple times with a great team. If you give Kohli the same team, I would argue that Kohli would win the IPL an equal number of times, or even maybe more. Maybe they might win it in an even year as well, which, to be fair, Rohit did last year. But jokes apart, I think he probably, after this 2021 World Cup or 2022 cycle, will probably take a step back and say, do I want to play T20 cricket anymore at an international level? And I wouldn't mind it if he just said, you know what, I'm okay. I want to play the ODI game and I want to play the Test game because I love those two formats. I don't see the need for him to push himself to play the T20 international format because we have players who can replace him. We don't have players who can replace him in the Test format or in the ODI game. So
yeah, very interesting debate. I think we could talk about it forever, and ultimately he's going to make the choice he makes. But quality player, as those of you who have obviously followed the T20 series, you'll know that he proved himself in the second match. So we're going to take a quick Siat Tire strategic timeout, and we'll be right back to talk about the second T20.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Would like to thank our sponsors on the network this week. Siat, thank you so much for sticking with us. On the Paisa Vaisa podcast, Anupam was joined by Sujata Alawat, who spoke about women's credit behavior and about improving credit scores for better financial health. Gauri Devi Dayal was joined by Barkha Dutt on This Round Is On Me. She shared her thoughts on present-day media and journalism and some of her experiences from the days of her reporting. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talked about how meditation is like getting engrossed and absorbed into an activity where you are free of other thoughts and focus on just one thing. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Ayushi were joined by Supriya and Priyanka Joshi for an honest and heartfelt conversation about life as a woman in the 2020s. On the Filter Coffee podcast this week, Karthik invited Bala Srinivas, who has been an active mentor in the startup scene in India, and they discuss its various aspects from funding to government support. Our traveling professor Cesar talks about this academic document called Statement of Purpose and helps us understand its concept and shares and some tips on how to draft it well. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, powered by Siat Tires. We have just talked about the kind of depressing, unfortunate start India had to the series, going down 0-1. A lot of conversation about how India is going to get crushed. England's the best limited over side in the world, and that's still true. But of course, our boys don't take it lightly. They came back. They bounced back. They fought hard in the second T20 that has just ended. And as is always the case, you can probably hear in our voice the excitement about the fact that India won the second T20 by 7 wickets in what was a pretty convincing defeat, right? So, DJ, let's start with the 2 changes they made to the team. Of course, we won the toss, got to chase. That's a big factor. England chased the first match, we chased the second. But let's talk about the 2 changes in selection, right? Shikhar Dhawan, after one unfortunate performance in the first match, missed out and made way for Ishan Kishan, who opened left-handed, like for like in that sense, but explosive batsman who's had a phenomenal series, a phenomenal last few years, as you said. And then, kind of what you said earlier as well, we dropped Akshar Patel and brought in Surya Kumar Yadav, who didn't end up playing a very active part in this match, but essentially meaning we're strengthening batting and leaving Hardik Pandya to guaranteed have to bowl 4 overs. What was your thoughts on those 2 changes?
So again, I think I was excited to see Ishan Kishan come into the side. I think I've gone on record saying I thought he was the player of IPL 2020. I thought he had a fantastic year. When our boy Rishabh Pant was down, I said, you know what, we've got another wicketkeeper batsman who's coming up the ranks who could potentially replace Rishabh Pant in our affections in the next 50 years, if that was possible. And that was Ishan Kishan. So today I was, and I think you were as well, we were all super excited to see these 2 players in the same lineup, which we've never seen after the under-19 days, right? I mean, Kishan hasn't played for the Delhi Capitals. Pant's always played for the Delhi Capitals. And it was Ishan Kishan's debut game. Quite emotional for him, I think, to be putting on an India cap. Kohli gave him his India cap. And Sky, 30 years old, making his debut. I don't think we've had a player who's 30 years old make his debut for quite a while. I can't remember the last person who was 30 plus who made a debut for India. I don't know if you do.
I mean, I guess in the tests we had Natarajan who was 28, we had Akshar who's 27, 28. So we've had a few test debuts, but I can't remember in the shorter formats, yeah.
Yeah, but 30 plus is, it's like Michael Hussey territory, right? But really great to see a consistent IPL performance being rewarded with an India call-up. A little bit sad for the Mumbai Indians' right to match and all of that, but that's a different debate for another day.
I was going to say, you're not really sad. We're okay with it, right? I'm okay with the thought that these guys may both be out on the open auction coming next year, but anyway.
Absolutely. But again, it wasn't a selection that made cricketing sense. As we've spoken, you've dropped a left arm spinning all-rounder, a bowling all-rounder, to replace him with a batsman, a pure batsman, Sky. So the Ishan Kishan and Shikhar Dhawan swap was a straight left-hand opener for another left-hand opener. But it was just giving these guys a look in. Rohit remained rested, of course, but Kohli played. So, yeah, interesting but good exposure for these guys playing against the best white ball team in the world, right?
Yeah, really well said. And so, again, as I mentioned, India won the toss, got to put England into bat first. Nothing like a start where you get Joss Butler for a first ball duck on the third ball of the match, right? Bhuvneshwar Kumar looked outstanding there today. He just looks like he's regained his fitness. He's regained a little bit of his mojo. I hope he has a phenomenal IPL and again gives India some serious options coming into the World Cup, etc. But yes, only five bowling options, right? With Pandya having to bowl all his overs, right? Let's walk through it, right? Washington Sundar ended up bowling more in the power play, which I thought was a great move. He loves to bowl there. He didn't do enough of that in the first match, if at all, I think. And he's good at bowling at lefties too. Let's put at righties too, right? The argument for why he didn't bowl in the power play in the first match is because of the right-handers. But Sundar's a quality bowler. DJ, anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely, and really well bowled to him. He came on in the 12th over, as you said, in the first game, which I think people were questioning that move because he bowls with the new ball. Bowled really brilliantly today. I think he took 2 for 29, but those figures don't actually show the pressure that he put on the batsman. It was interesting that Dinesh Karthik was actually saying, they don't want this matchup, which was, I think, Jason Roy versus Washington Sundar, that India would not want this matchup. They've been forced to get into this matchup, and the next ball, Washi gets Jason Roy caught. A brilliant catch as well, so that was good. But so pleased to see Washington come along, and for me, he is the, along with Chahal, he is the number one spinner. Well, he's the first choice spinner for India in T20s, can bowl in the power play, can bat, can field well. And he's already won a CIAT award this week. So it's been a good week for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say, honestly, great bowling effort all around, right? Bhuvneshwar Kumar did well early on and at the end. Sundar, as we mentioned. Shardul Thakur picked up 2 for 29 as well and looked really good at the death, right? He was not using a ton of variation, if you will, between the quicker ball and the slower ball, but his 112, 114 kilometer an hour delivery seemed to work. He had great control of it, wasn't letting the batsman get any pace on the ball, picked up 2 wickets.
Is this you saying he's booking his spot, Ashwin?
I'm not saying that yet. I'm saying I'm happy for the guy. He's done really well. He's progressed, made a lot of good steps in the right direction. And I honestly, when he's playing for India, I want him to do well. I don't see him being a first choice quick in a full strength squad with Bumrah back as well. But anyway, we can table that discussion for another day. Yuzvendra Chahal, 1 for 34, similar to what you said about Sundar, right? The numbers don't really justify the pressure he was putting on them. He bowled a lot of dot balls. Yes, we know he goes for the occasional 6. And then let me ask you about Hardik Pandya. I mentioned this up front, but bowled his full quota of 4 overs. I would take a fifth bowler who can bat the way he does, bowling 4 overs, 0 for 33 any day of the week. Doesn't need to be a huge wicket taker, but if he can stay under 9-ish runs and over, that's a win, right?
Oh, 100%. And again, it's a function of the combination we went with in this game, and it actually forced us to test out Hardik, whether he can actually bowl a full 4-over spell. When I say a full 4-over spell, it's only 4 overs, but a 4-over spell, right? And I don't think we are going to go into actual do-or-die games with Hardik being our 5th bowler, but he will be our 6th bowler when we play a Bumrah or somebody else. So good to see him back to full fitness. Good to see him bowling those cutters, hitting those lines. He looked rusty in the first game. There was a lot of stuff down the leg side, but we really have to kind of wrap him in cotton wool and keep him fit, right? And I don't know how we're going to do that till October. But good signs for Indian cricket. I mean, he's an incredibly destructive batsman. He didn't even have to bat today. So to have him fully fit and able to bowl 1 to 4 overs at any stage, I think is a huge plus for India. Not only here, but in the World T20 next year, which is going to be played in Australia as well, right? So I think India have been looking forward to him getting back to full fitness, and great to see him being able to bowl those overs for India again.
Yeah, really well said. Restricted England to 164. The debutant and the new opening pair of Rahul and Kishan walk out. Rahul plays out 5 dot balls and then gets dismissed for an edge to the wicketkeeper. So we're now sitting there with the scoreline at 0 for 1 after 1 over. All of us started to panic just a little bit, of course. You know, we knew we bat deep, and we knew Rahul has been struggling to find his nick a little, hasn't played much domestic. But then came in the young Ishan Kishan, making his debut. You know, one of the commentators, and it's interesting, I think you and I had different feeds because I didn't have Dinesh Karthik commentating. So maybe we're not seeing the same comments.
Yeah, I've got the Sky feed. So those guys have got Dinesh and Stuart Broad on.
Interesting. So yeah, I have this usual suspects on Hotstar US. But, you know, very interesting that Ishan has actually played all 5 of these bowlers, both the Currans, Chris Jordan, Jofra Archer, and Adil Rashid. Actually, not Adil Rashid. So I guess 4 of the 5 bowlers he's played just through IPL, which is pretty amazing, right? Making your debut and you've already played 4 of the England bowlers, and of course Ben Stokes. Comes out, makes a blistering 56 of 32 balls. What is he at? 4 sixes, 5 fours. So unquestionably, this week's Siat Secura Drive Player of the Week was Ishan Kishan, right? Looked rock solid out there. And just suddenly you say, oh, now we start to understand what Kohli meant by saying we're going to play a different brand of cricket, because he was fearless, right? So DJ, you've been using that weird fearless. How exciting was it to see Kishan batting, making that blistering 56?
Extremely. I tweeted out just before that, it was a chase of 164, and I was like, I'm super excited to watch this chase with Ishan Kishan, Sky, and of course Rishabh Pant. It's time to play that brand of fearless cricket that, I mean, frankly, that's the brand we played in 2007. No one was expecting us to win that World T20. You had Rohit Sharma, you had Dinesh Karthik, you had Yuvraj Singh. You had all these youngsters just looking to make their name, not burdened by expectations. And I think the great thing about the IPL, you mentioned he's played everyone in the IPL. Now, in the last game, I was thinking, man, I mean, is the IPL becoming like the EPL? Do we have all these great players who come and play in India, and then India never wins the World Cup, which is what happens to the English football team, right? Like you have all these amazing soccer players come over and play football here, and the England national team actually doesn't do anything. Well, they did pretty well last time, but they haven't won the World Cup, I think, since 1966. So I don't want the IPL to go that way. I would hate for the IPL to go that way. And I think today I was given reassurance that the IPL is good for Indian cricket because it gives us players like Ishan Kishan. It gives us a Sanju Samson. It gives us Ravichandran Ashwin, if you remember back in the day, came through the IPL route. It gives us Washington Sundar, who's becoming a test regular, right? So just fabulous to watch this young man complete. He's not fazed by Jofra Archer bowling at 150 at him. He's still trying to flick him for 6 over square leg. And it was great to see him bat with his captain Virat Kohli to guide him. So I think that was a very important factor as well. Kohli was really enjoying himself batting with these 2 youngsters because Pant came in after Ishan got out. And I think just that cool head of Kohli while he's batting, because Kohli with the bat is completely the opposite of Kohli in the field. So I think that would have really helped Ishan Kishan while he was out there. And fabulous innings in the thrill of speed with complete control, right? That's the Siat Secura Drive tagline.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bringing us back.
No, but that's exactly it. He's shown you the thrill. He's given you the thrill of speed with complete control, mastery of the situation, sweet sound of the bat. Just, it looked like a tough surface as well. And I mean, he made it look easy, and just so excited to see Rishabh Pant and Ishan Kishan in the same team. It's genius.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, again, Ishan Kishan is our Siat Secura Drive Award winner of the week. Phenomenal knock, right? And I think it's just that approach, that mindset, that attitude. And I've said this about Pant before. I'm going to say it about Kishan too. He's going to fail. He's going to try to hit a 6 on the second ball and get out for duck. We have to be okay with that in T20 cricket. England has become okay with that. We have to be okay with it because you have Kohli, you have some combination of Iyer, Rahul, or Surya Kumar Yadav, etc., who can play the anchor roles. Unleash these guys, let them play. So phenomenal luck by Kishan. DJ, we could spend the whole time talking about this T20, but we got to talk about our skipper really quickly, right? 73 off 49 balls. He struck at nearly 150. This guy has a T20 average of, I think it's over or nearly 50, and just strikes at a really good rate, but he makes it look so easy. I think on our Discord, somebody said, yeah, but he doesn't deserve man of the match because this is what you expect of him. And like, how poetic a line is that ultimately, right? That's how brilliant King Kohli has been, that even after hitting a rough patch, a series of ducks, you expect him to do this and he delivers. So I've said this for years, but King Kohli in chases, man, he's just magical.
Absolutely brilliant. And it was great to see him roar back to form. I mean, he had 2 ducks in international games back to back. Great expressions after each of those ducks as well. I mean, the one in the last test match as well as the first T20. But I mean, Kohli is just, he's a victim of his own greatness. You don't want to give him the man of the match because it's just expected that he's going to perform at that level. And it's not easy to perform at that level. That's the other thing you have to remember, day in and day out, managing the pressure as well. And we talked a little bit about Kohli's captaincy, right? And for me, Kohli as a batsman, I don't know whether I'd want him to stay in the T20 team if he gives up the captaincy, because, and that's probably a controversial statement to make. I'm saying that he's good enough to stay in the team, but if he's giving up the captaincy, I don't want him to stay in the team because we're trying to prolong his other formats of the game, right? And that would be my thinking for him giving up the captaincy. But until then, we need to enjoy Kohli, the T20 batsman, enjoy Kohli, the T20 chase master. The only thing I would say, and the only thing that worries me, and both teams have won when they've chased, is how do we crack batting first, Ashwin? And I don't know the answer to this because we don't know what a good score is ever. We either go too hard or we go too slow. How do we figure that out? How do we crack that?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And Kohli said that after the first match where he said, yeah, we lost the toss. That's fine. You know that in T20s, at least in India right now, feels like the chasing side wins majority of the time. But that's exactly what Kohli said, is we need to learn how to crack that nut on setting up a big total when we bat first. And so to your point, I'm glad we're trying it this series. I was going to ask you for your prediction of the series coming out of the fact that we're 1-1. Has it changed at all? You predicted 3-2 to England. I honestly, at this point, I'm predicting it'll be the winners of all 3 of the next matches will be the team that chases. So this is going to come down to the coin toss. But DJ, do you have a change?
So the team that wins the toss.
Yeah.
No, I think England's going to win 3-2, or, I mean, God forbid they win it 4-1. But they are a good team, man. They are... We played well today. We did not field well today. Let's remember that. Our out cricket in the last 2 games has not been great. And when we've been knocked out of World T20s before, it's been because we've been bowling no balls and dropping catches. So that is one aspect I'd like us to get better at. But I think England are a very strong team. They still haven't played 2 spinners yet, right? So I think Moeen Ali is probably going to get a game at some stage. And we got Butler early today. Bairstow didn't manage to do too much damage. Roy struggled a bit as well. But if this team, I don't think they played a perfect game in the first game. And if they continue to play like that, they're just a very, very hard team to beat. But now that we've played Kishan and we've potentially played Sky, we haven't seen him bat, I think we're going to continue to experiment. I can't see Kohli playing the rest of the series. I think Rohit will come back. I think Kohli will rest. Sky will bat at 3 to test him out, because you need backup players, right? To make sure that...
So where are you putting Kishan in that scenario, really quickly?
So for me, and I know this probably sounds like he's played 1 game, he looks really great, but for me, Kishan opens the batting with Rohit Sharma. And that
so where does Rahul go?
Yeah, so that's an issue, right? Like, does Rahul come in at 5? And so is he, him and Iyer and Sky fighting out for that spot? Because Kohli is going to stay at 3, Pant's going to be at 4 or 5. So it's tough. It's good to have competition like this. But if you want a left-handed opening batter who can get you off to a flyer, there's a little bit of Quinton de Kock in Ishan Kishan, right? That arrogance with which he dismisses the ball from his presence, smacks everything in the middle of the bat, and it goes for 6. And I mean, imagine going to your first international 50 with a 6 in 28 balls. I mean, the arrogance of it is just genius. I mean, so for me, he's probably ahead of Shikhar Dhawan and KL Rahul in the opening stakes, just because he is left-handed and he's more explosive than Dhawan.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I can see the argument. I just don't think, like, in the spirit of what we said about our test cricketers and stuff, I don't think it's the right decision or fair to drop Rahul down the batting order. just because of a couple of bad performances.
Yeah, but Rahul bats 5 when the ODIs, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah. But he's opened in T20s for a while. He's the number 3 T20 batsman in the world right now. Like on 2 matches to change his spot just doesn't feel like it's fair. So I understand the left-right. I would probably play for the rest of the series if Kohli gets dropped, or rested rather. I would probably play Rohit and Rahul to open, and then some combination of Iyer, Pant, Sky, and Kishan as 3, 4, 5, 6 basically, and your batting order as we've seen them want to do, left, right. So definitely one of the lefties at 3, and then after that, based on match situation, etc. So anyway, we can talk about that a lot. By the time we bring you our next episode, actually the series will be done because they're pretty short gaps in between. But let's hope my prediction of 3-2 is right in favor of India.
And all our batting orders would have changed as well, depending on who does well.
Yeah, exactly. Varun and I called it in favor of India. DJ called it 3-2 in favor of England. We will see how that goes. DJ, before we quickly wrap up, a lot going on in the world of cricket, like I said, right? Have you, first off, congratulations to Team Mumbai for their win in the Vijay Hazare Trophy. Who's this young, blistering opener who made like 700 plus runs in the tournament? Some Prithvi Shaw, how do you say his name? Who is this guy? He can't be the same guy that traveled to Australia, can he?
827 runs, man. Tell you differently. What a revival this guy has had. Insane. I mean, 400s, 150, highest of 227, I think, not out. Leading Mumbai. Well, I think he was captain for a couple of games as well. I don't know whether he was captain for the final because I don't actually get telecast for the Vijay Hazare Trophy games in the UK. I actually don't get any of the women's games or the Legends games, which is actually really irritating because I'm following all of this on Twitter and Facebook, but I'm not getting to watch any of it, and it's really quite frustrating, I have to say. But after following this guy's Vijay Hazare Trophy and Devdutt Padikkal 400s in the Vijay Hazare Trophy for Karnataka, good signs, man. Good signs. And Shaw spoke about the mental challenges that he faced after being dropped after the first test in Australia. Of course, our last episode is all about the mental challenges faced by cricketers with Jeremy Snape. So if you haven't heard that, that's a little plug for episode 161. But yeah, really glad for the guy, man. Really, really happy for him. It's hard on these guys, child prodigies, ace of everything they've ever done, won an under-19 World Cup as a captain, made a test 100 on debut. And for him to be so down and for him to talk about talent, everyone has talent, but hard work makes it different. It shows you how much it hurts these guys because we can sit here and say he's got a gap between bat and pad, but the amount of work it takes him to fix that, to play a ball at 150k, we don't know that because we just guys with a mic and a laptop, right? So really pleased for Prithvi Shaw coming back. Exciting player, man. Exciting talent, and glad he's on the way back.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. There's a lot of great things to say about cricketers, but I agree. Even we joke about how Shardul's not my favorite cricketer, right? But I genuinely understand what these guys go through. It is hard, and I want to give credit where it's due. We can all have fans and we can have players we like less, but let's be respectful and celebrate when we're cheering for all of them to do well. So let's be super respectful when they do well. So thank you for that. Really well said.
And he's a DC boy, right? So waiting for the Delhi Capitals to reap the benefits of his
Iyer looked good. Shaw looked good in the Hazare Trophy. Pant, of course, looks great. We are excited. It's going to be a good season for us. I can feel it. But hey, a lot happening. You mentioned the Legend series. By the time we come to next week's episodes, that'll be done. But India looks solid. Sehwag doing well. Sachin doing well. So great to see. I haven't been able to watch it either in the US. So if any of our listeners has a good, easy way to watch it in the US, send us a tweet or message. Same with the UK, I guess, because I haven't been able to figure it out, unfortunately.
You can DM us if there's some secrecy around the link. That's fine. You can just DM us on Twitter. It's cool.
All right. I'm going to act like I didn't hear that one. The India women have been playing. Unfortunately, not quite the series we had hoped for, where they're down 3-1 right now in the 5-match ODI series. 4 matches are done. 1 match to fight back. Obviously can't win the series, but then three T20s coming up. So next week, hopefully we'll have a little more time. We'll cover that in more detail. And then the last thought I wanted to ask you in the international cricket scene. Rashid Khan has just bowled 99.2 overs in a test match. It's absurd, right? Also, Afghanistan won, which is great for them, but Zimbabwe followed on. So it wasn't even 99.2 overs with 40 overs on day 1 and 2 and the rest on day 5 where he had 2 days off. No. This was back-to-back innings. That guy's a machine, right? He normally bowls 4 overs in a T20.
That's almost 2 full seasons of IPL bowling, right? Imagine how much that would have cost the Sunrisers Hyderabad if he'd to bowl that. He's done it in like over 2.5 days. But incredible scenes, man. I mean, congratulations to Afghanistan for that Test match win. It's a big win, right, for a team that's finding its feet in international cricket. So well done to them, international Test cricket particularly. So congratulations to all Afghanistan fans. Well done.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a wrap of this week's episode of Edges and Sledges powered by Seat Tires. It's been fun. DJ, always a little bit more fun recording when India wins a match. So nice to be 1-1. As always, we are running our Bat with Seat contest. So remember, you can tweet in. The question for March is, who is the only bowler to have taken 400 Test wickets in fewer matches than Ravichandran Ashwin? You have to name the bowler and how many tests he took to get to the 400 Test wickets landmark. Make sure you tweet at us with the hashtag BatWithSeat. This is the March contest we're running. So at the end of the month, we'll obviously select our winner. And that is that. Again, next Sunday when we record for our next Monday release, the 5 matches will be done. I'm hoping we have this much energy and excitement in our voice because India has pulled out a phenomenal victory. As always, tune in to next week's episode as well. You can find us on all social media at One Tip One Hand, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can email us, contact@onetiponehand.com. We will be back next week. This is Edges and Sledges, powered by Seat Tires.
Drive safe, guys.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Nankari podcast every Wednesday. सिर्फ IVM podcast app या वेबसाइट पर या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.